Hello, welcome to Put in Work TV. We've enjoyed watching your journey and growth as an artist slash creator in the New England scene and really want to hear more about your story. Our focus is allowing our guests to tell their stories front and center without judgment or opinion. Let's dive straight in. How did it all begin, Dom Dior?
Honestly, I've been writing like lyrics, poems, all that shit since I can remember. Since like my mom was an English major and shit, so she's always been about writing and shit. Music has always been a big thing in our household. Like I remember like listening to Nas, listening to like Sade and shit growing up. It really started with my cousins though, cause I remember one day I grew up in Texas, so I'm from El Paso, Texas, and I remember one day me and my sister went over to my cousins on my pop's side, and they was all, I knew they was all into rap. Like, they was all rappers. They had their own demo CDs and everything, bro. And one day I was just around them, and I was like, this shit's fire. This shit's lit. And, like, of course, like, it's your older cousins, so you want to be just like them. It's like, those are some of your first role models and shit. So I really want to be just like them. And then a situation happened where my cousin, Sovi, he couldn't really get a verse down. Like it was like my cousin Reno, Chris, and him, and he just was having trouble like enunciating the words. And they were just fucking around at that point. But they was like, yo, they pointed at me like, yo, get in the booth, like try to record something. And when I say booth, I mean like a closet with a mic just like taped to the top, you know, some egg cartons and shit.
Origin story.
You know, humble beginnings and shit. So I spit the verse and like I didn't sound no J. Cole, I didn't sound like no Kendrick, but like I could like they could tell I had a knack for it, and it sounded a lot more natural coming out of coming from me, like the way I delivered it. Even though shit I was saying was nothing like an 11, 12-year-old should be saying. Like it was like okay, it's like this and like that, always on the road, chasing hoes, all these other things like smoke by the pound, drink by the ounce, and my father will knock you out in the first round. Like some real like.
Oh, you remember the lyrics?
Bro, I absolutely. Let me see. It's like this and like that. Always on the road, doing shows, chasing money. Shit. Man,
bunch of stuff.
There's shit. Lots of shit. It was like a quick 12 bar. I remember most of it for the most part, just cause I like that 12 bars stuck in my head for the next like till now, and I'm 24 years old. Goddamn, 12 years later, I still remember that shit. So that's really what got it started. I didn't start taking music seriously till I was in high school. That's when I had the opportunity to actually have access to a real recording studio. At that point, I was just making music out of my own room and shit. But like that was like the pivotal moment where I was like, I knew for a fact that music was gonna be something I do for the rest of my life. Like I always knew I was gonna be bigger than life. I always knew I was gonna be bigger than the system that we're in. And I just didn't know what it was until that moment. And I was like, from there, I feel blessed because I was able to figure out my purpose very early on.
And so, when you got into the booth, what was the feeling you left with?
I was invincible. I felt like 50 Cent. Like at that time, 50 Cent, to this day, 50 Cent's in my top 5. But back then, 50 Cent was like my favorite rapper. Like, I loved Nas, I loved Jay, and I love like a bunch of West Coast rappers and shit. Like I grew up on Wayne, but it was something about 50 Cent that like I just like gravitated towards. Like he was just so unadulterated, like unapologetically himself in all aspects. And like when I spit that verse, I was like, yeah man, I'm 50. I'm 50 right now. So yeah.
So what was it like growing up? I heard you say El Paso, Texas, and I think we all have misconceptions about Texas.
Mm.
You know, everything is bigger in Texas. The food is huge. Rednecks and guns.
Yeah.
But tell me, what is it really like growing up in El Paso, Texas?
I mean, Texas is one of those places where it's so big you could have like 450, like hundreds of different types of cultures and subcultures all in the same area. Like where I grew up, El Paso is from El Paso to Dallas, Texas is a 10-hour drive.
10 hours?
10 hours. I also used to live in San Diego. From San Diego to El Paso was a 9-hour drive straight. So going through 3 to 4 different states, you're going to California, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico to get to Texas. You're crossing 5 different borders in a shorter time than it is to go like halfway to like 75% through Texas. So there's so much going on. Everything is bigger in Texas. That's a fact. The food portions, the truck, like everything. The people and shit, like people are bigger in Texas too. But in El Paso, there was definitely a lot of like rednecks and shit, but it wasn't as many like. Obviously, it's Texas, mad white people, but in El Paso was like it felt like unofficially a majority city because there were just so many Mexicanos in there. Like there's so many Chicanos, a lot of black people, a lot of Asian people there too.
So you grew up around minorities, and you got to join the culture almost.
Exactly. Like. I mean, I was like one of the interesting things about like black culture and like Mexican culture and Chicano culture specifically is that like because so many of our people were like not necessarily smushed together for lack of better words, but like forced to live in really small confinements due to like systematic oppression, poverty, all that shit. So like so much of what I grew up, it's just like a melting pot of black, like when I say black, I also mean like southern black culture, because there's 100 different types of like black. And I fell in love with R&B. I started experimenting with my voice, experimenting with like the R&B rapping. Then I started singing because my boy Clark D helped me like he basically cracked the code with autotune. Like I had no idea how to use autotune for a really long time, and it was like in one session he helped me figure it out, and I started singing my ass off. But like now. Like I'm making house music right now. I'm making Jersey club music right now. I'm still making drill music. I'm still making like boom bap, like chill smoke music and shit. So I feel like I have a song for everybody. I feel like you gonna listen to my discography and like you're not gonna be able to find something that you don't like.
That's amazing.
Like
that versatility is important.
That's what I'm saying. That's how. And I understand it's like a double-edged sword because. It's hard to maintain an audience for something that they can't expect. It's a lot easier. Audiences like expecting things. That's why like Drake has been so successful. Lil Wayne has been Hulk, Jay-Z, fucking like all these artists have a certain level of consistency within their sound, and they do go out the range and shit. Like I know Wayne with Rebirth had a whole rock album and shit, but like I want to do that shit. Like I want to like have my lane. And then have 6 more that I can weave in out of. So that's why I'm starting this like drill house project. So I can start like, yo, I'm making whatever music I want to make, whatever it sounds like.
So what do you try to give your audience with your music? Some is catharsis. Some speak about political issues. Some want you to be spiritual and get more in tune with yourself. Like an artist like Thames, she's a female artist, and she's more about soul and spirit, and she kind of brings back a Aaliyah vibe where she wants you to be at peace. So what does Dom Dior try to give his audience through his music?
Honestly, it depends on the song too, no bullshit. I will say for the most part, I started making music because I thought rap was cool, but I also like really, when I started taking music seriously in high school and college, I made music for women. Like for me, I grew up with my mom's my sister, and at the time, like also my mom had a girlfriend and a fiance growing up. So for 8 years, I was living in a household with 3 women. So I was literally living through their experiences, seeing what they was going through, seeing the shit that they'd have to live through as women when it comes to like school, work, politics, relationships with men, relationship with other women. Like I was just, obviously I'm not a woman, so I can't fully grasp everything that they go through. But because I spent so long growing up in these environments, also with my cousins, I have a lot of like women who are my like primas and shit. So
you can empathize with their experience.
Exactly. I can see what's going on and be able to like exactly not understand necessarily, but empathize and just be able to have a better sense of like how I should move and how my movements affect them. So originally I was just making music to make women feel good. That was really, I love women.
You want them to get down, low key.
That's what I'm saying. There's no more that I love than a woman smiling, no lie. Like I love women, believe women, protect women, all of that. And as I kind of got older, I also like got more confidence in myself. So I was like, nah, I'm making music for me. But I think also at the end of the day, even before I was making music for women, I was really like rapping for my people. Like one of the first songs I have is I'm talking about like the concepts I was like in high school talking about systematic oppression. I was in high school talking about like how like the systems in place are designed to keep us down, or designed to pit us against one another. So I feel like at this point it really depends on my day, but I can make a song that talks about how like we need to protect women, and like also in that same song like make women feel beautiful. And then I can also turn around and talk about like drill music. I could talk about my experiences. I could talk about what I saw as a kid with my cousins. I could talk about what I'm seeing last week type shit. Because this shit don't go away from you. You get, what I realize is the deeper in this music shit is, the deeper all of it is, including like the gang ties when it comes to this shit. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be an aspect, for me, a political aspect, whether it be like, again, like I said, protecting women, or talking about how like so much of the shit that we go through is based off a system designed to see us fail. And also like myself, my shit. I talk a lot about my shit. I literally have a Jersey Club record where I talk about somebody like pulling a pistol out on me. And Jersey Club, he's fucking like, you know, like the Uzi verse. That shit is lit. But like I do the lit shit and the feel good shit, but also I'm gonna make you like think about what the fuck
you're gonna paint the picture.
Exactly.
So what is your process creating, and what have you learned the most from it? Because every artist, and like you said, every song is different, every vibe is different, and you can't assume or you can't predict what's going to happen, but you have a basis for what you know you're gonna do and how you're gonna deliver whatever it is you're feeling at the moment. So what is your process creating, and what did you extract from that process that's become part of Dom Dior's personality, part of his artist character? No matter what, these are some things that you do to create.
Lock in, to be honest. I feel like the world of sports and music are so intertwined because so many of the principles in both apply to one another. Like, when it comes to my process, every day could look different. I'm always going to be smoking. I'm always going to be riding, listening to beats. That's always going to stay consistent. More like 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to be at Thrill too, not for none, because that studio feels like home court for me. But like essentially my process is just don't give up. Like, let shit flow, let shit on people who actively know more than you. The other thing I would say is, bro, every game should be free. Like, I understand we should gatekeep certain things. Like, we should definitely gatekeep hip hop when it comes to certain, like, you know, like certain groups of people. I'm not gonna get too specific, but like there's certain things in the culture we should gatekeep in different cultures and shit. But when it comes to putting somebody on, like, I've never been the type to hold back like knowledge and shit. Even when I was working at Nike, like they was a lot of them was pissed at me because every time we get a new shoe, I'm hitting everybody I know. I'm sliding up on my story, clicking the picture, being like, "Yo, who wants this tap in?" Like, granted, I wasn't making that much money because I was just telling people where to get it. I could have gatekeeped and made more money, but for me, it was more important to put my people on. So make sure you always learning, being around people who know more than you. And then make sure you're sharing that knowledge, because that's always, it's that karmic energy, bro. The more you learn, the more you share, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to share.
And the more comes back to you.
Exactly.
So what is the hardest part of your journey? What is the hardest part? The thing that holds you back, the thing that sometimes is hard to get through, some days that keeps you from making music, keeps you from writing the lyrics, keeps you from being in a good mood. What is the hardest part?
Life. No bullshit. Life is the thing that gets in the way of everything. But if I'm able to live through life and still at the end of the day put something on wax, it goes back to that practice thing. Might not be the greatest thing ever, but I completed what I needed to do. I did my job. I completed my reps. So I would say, as long as like that, because life really, for real, like the shit that I go through, the shit that you go through, the shit that we all go through, like the idea of Sonder, everybody's living just as a unique and complex life as you are. So if I don't want to get too specific in the shit that I be going through, but it's
the
really
unexpected,
just like the unexpected, the exact, like last Wednesday, like I said at the studio, I expected to link up with my homies and make some music. I ended up having to fucking deal with a domestic violence situation. That shit was crazy. I didn't expect that at all. That's the reason why I was like unable to really create that night, was because something like that happened so much. So again, it's like life is gonna be crazy. But if I'm able to wake up if I'm able to breathe, I'm able to rap.
Roll with the punches. Roll with the punches for sure. And so this is a frequently asked question, and it's cliche, but take it how you want. And so I want to rephrase this question. Instead of asking you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Let me ask you, what do you see yourself becoming? Which is a very important question, because you can see yourself in a successful position, but have you grown? Have you become a better person? Have you helped anyone along the way? So who does Dom Dior become in the next 5 years?
I think I just become a better version of myself times 5. I feel like I'm always improving. I obviously have setbacks from life, from my own self that I put in my own way. But like the older I get, the better I get. For me, like it's like basketball. You don't really start becoming. You're not gonna be the best version of yourself until you like 10 years in type shit. Like that's. Obviously, I feel like I don't have the same cap. I feel like I'm going to keep getting better. I'm never not going to get better. But in 10 years, or 5 years, 10 years, I'm just going to be a more elevated version of myself, a more knowledgeable version of myself. I'm about to be a cop-out. So I can be more specific. Because obviously, hopefully I'll be a better person if all goes right. Yeah. I'll probably, to be honest, like,
I think you pretty much nailed it, honestly.
That's the goal, to be honest. The success, I want the success, but the success is never going to define me, just like my failures could never define me. Like, I'm like 24. I know to an extent who I am currently, and I know how much better I could be.
So becoming the best version of Dom Dior is the best thing you can ask for.
Exactly.
Along with the success, along with the views, the streams, the play, the money. If you're able to become the best version of yourself, you have succeeded.
Exactly. If I've conquered my demons, I'd rather be broke with 0 demons than be rich with all of them.
Yes.
Because them demons will throw your fortune into the toilet.
You.
Exactly.
So where do you see the state of New England's music art scene in 5 years? Do you see it becoming a little better? Because one thing I can say about Boston or New England as a whole is, you know, what I've heard from a lot of other artists is that we're missing structure, we're missing the machine, we're missing the helping hand from one of these bigger artists. Or sometimes a big artist comes back to Boston and they only help a certain demographic or a certain clique or a certain crew because that's the homies, that they're the ones that they worked with before. So what does the future of the New England's music scene look like in 5 years, in your opinion?
I feel like we're heading towards our own renaissance, to be honest. Everything is in waves. Music is just like everything else. Everything is in waves and cycles. I feel like there hasn't been a wave or cycle to hit Boston because you had New York, you had LA, you had Atlanta, you got Detroit, you got Chicago, Memphis, you
West
got
Coast.
UK, exactly. You got all these like waves of music that all like the focal point right now hip hop is between New York and Atlanta. For like the last 10 years it was predominantly in Atlanta. Prior to that, West Coast. Prior to that, it was all New York.
And Detroit's got the heat too.
Detroit's got the heat too. And I feel like Boston is one of the few places that has such a strong cultural epicenter within our people. We just haven't had that same spotlight. A lot of that comes down to, again, institutional, systematic things. Our local radio stations historically have not played local artists. Our venues have historically not booked and worked with local artists. House of Blues, Middle East, all these big venues, and really the Middle East is actually a lot better, I will say, because they've been actually for a while booking a lot of local artists. But it's really hard to work with promoters in this city because of the lack of foundation, lack of actual. We're talking about the helping hand when it comes to other artists. We can't expect Stiz to put us all on. Stiz is probably one of the biggest artists since fucking House of Pain in the 90s. House of Pain was one-hit wonders. There's only and even there are certain artists, I know Bia is from Boston. She never put it off of Boston like that, but at the end of the day, it's I can't expect individuals who especially have individuals who don't have communal experience and understanding to be able to uplift people who they didn't expect to uplift or even think they could uplift. But in the next 5 years, all that's gonna change. I feel like we're at the boiling point. We right over spilling everything out on the edge.
Well, let's hope one day Dom Dior is gonna be the one to change that, huh?
Well, the thing is, we don't gotta hope for none because the change is happening with me and without me.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Like, I'm so serious, bro. I've been saying this for the last 4 years. Boston has been on that tipping point, and we get closer and closer and closer because at the end of the day, like, thanks to the internet and all these things, but at the end of the day, it's our self-sufficiency and our self-reliance and our we did shit that we never could have done. Like, we're creating our own foundation. Boston's artists are creating our own foundation with and without the help of these systems and institutions. Like, we have the Opportunity Fund. We have a lot of, like, more local venues supporting artists and shit. Like, shout out Black Cotton Club, shout out Black Market, shout out all these like smaller venues. But even like Cotton Club and like Black Market, like, what's up? From the artists, our artists, feel me? So it's like, I feel like we're gonna have a better foundation than almost any other place because we didn't have those systems. We didn't have a record label down the street that would take us seriously, feel me? We didn't have no like solid like rap group in Boston for a really long time. Now we got Van Buren out from Brockton, shout out them boys, put it on crazy, but we didn't have a Van Buren, we didn't have none like that for a really long time. Maybe not that we didn't have it, they didn't have, there wasn't anything in place for them to succeed. So many, like, bro, you remember fucking Malfi?
Mm-hmm.
I thought Malfi was gonna be the biggest artist ever. Like, I had a fucking star. I was in middle of high school with a Star Gang hoodie, and like, shout out Malfi, but like, again, it was like he had an opportunity and a chance to like make something big, but because of so many things working against him, he not like I thought, like, I was in the Malfi before I even knew about Cousin Stiz, feel me? But now you ask people around Boston, some of them know Malfi, some of them do. Pretty much most people know Stiz out here, but it's like, again, he was coming up during the time where there wasn't a lot of foundation for us to build up from. Now we have each other to build from. That foundation is us now. And there's just so many of us, so many talented. Even in fucking Lowell, bro. I was working at the Boys and Girls Club in Lowell for a minute, and motherfuckers down there, crazy, fucking Martin Cartier and shit. Like, there's so many artists within New England that just have so much skill, talent, and amazing products that, like, we're getting to a point where it's undeniable. Like, you can ignore us for the longest time. You've ignored us for last how many decades, but again, it's like, even for my own self, I'm working so hard that it's gonna become undeniable. This community of like artists in New England, we working so hard, bro, and we becoming so fire. It's undeniable. Like, none's gonna stop us.
Respect. And my last question for you today is, what are your guiding forces? Some people believe in spirituality and they have people praying for them and they go to church, or some people just have undeniable faith that it's going to work. So what are the guiding forces in Dom Dior's career?
I definitely have an undeniable faith that shit's going to work out. Like I said, from when I was a kid, I knew I was bigger than life. So that always, even when I was ready to quit music, there was always part of me that was like, yeah, you quit today, but this shit's still gonna work out in 10 years. Like, you can do whatever you want today, but this shit gonna work out. Obviously, I can't really do whatever I want. I gotta work for what I feel like is my path. Like, I believe in a higher power, and I believe that higher power laid a path out for me to follow or to not follow. I definitely believe in destiny, but I also believe in, like, self-will. And like the power to choose your
to self-actualize.
Exactly, to self-actualize and to understand that this is the path that was laid out for me. I could follow it or not follow it, but I know if I follow this path, I know I'm gonna be successful. And the other thing that guides me is just the people that I be around, bro. Like, y'all charge up my battery even when it's broken, type shit. Like that. Like,
appreciate that.
Of course. Like, everybody I be around, like, fucking you, Rob, Steph, Cam, Clark, Tom. I'm gonna forget all my Kelby K brothers. Like, anytime I don't seen Luke Bars or Van Buren perform, anytime I'm Keep, like there's a billion names I could list off right now and I'll still forget some. But every single one of those people who I be around, I work with, I witness, like, that is the other guiding force. I see them and I'm like, bro, this is for us. This is us. Like, none can stop us. So those two, them shits like always makes me feel solid. Even when I don't feel solid, I think about that and I'm like, yeah.
Utmost respect to you, bro. Thank you for coming to Put in Work Studios. Thank you for doing this interview and giving up your time and sharing your story because it did mean something. And we do hear you. And continue to put out music. Continue to follow your mission. You know your purpose in life, which many don't. So I do want to appreciate your time. Thank you. Put in Work Studios, appreciate you. This interview is going to go up. We got to hear your story, your origins, your struggles, your past, your ups and downs. And you're here, and you've made it. Mm-hmm. So, thank you so much, bro. And that's the end of the interview.
Appreciate it. Before we turn off, I want to say one thing.
Go ahead, talk to him.
Peace, power, positivity, love. But you speak my name, we going to slide, and that's a fact.
Sheesh!